By now, HASHINSHIN has against all odds become a mainstay staple in the League of Legends community. Content creator and streamer HASHINSHIN has been the face of top laners and balance woes for years now. He has been mocked and or proven wrong by so many people in the League of Legends community at this point, but despite that, he is even a bigger influencer than ever. From high elo players to rioters to popular coaches proving that he is wrong about, well, League of Legends, he still reliably outranks 95% of all League of Legends players. Surely it must be a trick, right? The guy that constantly blames his losses on balance issues, the same guy that always seems to die back-to-back in the top lane due to bad TPs and macro decisions. This is the same guy that plays in an elo that most players wish that they could reach. Crazy, right? I have my own opinions on HASHINSHIN and what he does. I mean, it's pretty obvious my take in some of my older videos, but in this video, we won't just be trashing HASHINSHIN's opinions, because at that point, I think it's a little overdone and played out. The super top is here to stay. So let's get to the bottom of why someone that appears to be lost about how to actually play the game reliably finds himself around high elo season after season. And after this video, maybe, if you channel your inner HASHINSHIN, you'll find yourself in high enough elo getting League of Legends content creators mad at you enough to make a whole series of videos in your honor. And as always, if you like my videos, be sure to like, comment, click some notification bells, and all that stuff that helps me on YouTube while we discuss why HASHINSHIN outranks you at League of Legends. Alright, so we have to start at the obvious, right? Like it or not, if you are in reality denial that HASHINSHIN is a better player than you, which odds are if you are watching this video he definitely is, you must at least concede that HASHINSHIN is a more dedicated player than you are to his craft. I mean, just as a streamer alone, the man puts in a metric shit ton of hours into his Twitch broadcasts. I'm pretty sure that HASHINSHIN streams a lot more than I do, and I'm mad dedicated, yo. And as for League of Legends, he has played this game since at least Season 1, perhaps beta, and plays thousands of games a year. So, ranked anxiety, how about not playing ranked anxiety? The man seems to get the shakes every time that he is not in the heat of the LP limbo. Most people that ask me how to improve at League of Legends simply do not play enough ranked games. They are afraid of failure, afraid to put the mental energy into something for a negative result. It is safe to say, though, that HASHINSHIN has failed more than any of you watching this video. It takes about 8 seconds for the Nexus to explode before you can click to leave the game after being defeated. And I checked. This means that if we give Hash 3,000 games a season and a 50% win rate, he has literally spent 1,800 minutes just waiting to click continue before being able to queue for his next ranked match. That is like doing a 30-hour stream where you do nothing but actively watch the Nexus explode. So, hate it or love it, the man is either madly in love with or incredibly addicted to League of Legends. So, whatever the reason, the fact remains that until you, the viewer, play more ranked games and put yourself out there more, you will never be anything when there are people like HASHINSHIN ready to literally sacrifice their own existence just to watch that incredible exploding Nexus animation. So, HASHINSHIN may not be the best player, but the man plays nearly every day. Those days you are burned out and don't want to queue because you are afraid to lose again, HASHINSHIN is already in a game again. Losses and angry teammates be damned. HASHINSHIN is mostly known for playing bruisers and fighters in the top lane. This is important because the core strategy that he plays around is drawing pressure, either by inviting ganks or mid-late game splitting. The key thing to remember about champions like Jax, Aatrox, Kled, Camille, Darius, etc. is that they have a secret value that the average player does not understand or utilize. It's what they are capable of doing after the first tower falls. The way I like to think about it is this. When I pick a top laner, I think about how does my champion play when I cannot simply run to a tower safely. HASHINSHIN does love to complain about champions like Gnar, Jace, Kennen, Karma, or whatever champion happens to be bullying bruisers and fighters in the meta, and for good reason. They are really good at stopping bruisers and fighters from getting top lane prio, winning a 1v1, and snowballing the lane. However, it is important to keep in mind that most of the champions that I mention really struggle with split pushing later in the game. It can be done, yes, obviously, but in a solo queue environment, there's a reason you don't see many Jace, Gnar, Vayne top mains in Challenger. For example, let's take a champion like Jace. HASHINSHIN hates Jace with a passion, obviously. However though, when Jace gets a lead, most players find themselves throwing that lead away in the mid to late game. Why? Because if Jace elects to split push later and continue to pressure in the top lane, his positioning and situational awareness needs to be immaculate in order to execute. The reason is, if Jace missteps at all, he is instantly dead. His lead gone, now any tanks, bruisers, mages, fighters, ADCs, all in that same game get that very important step in being able to 1v1 the once fed Jace later. Compare this to, say, Darius. So you go 0-3 in lane. Guess what? If you farmed reasonably well and kept your head in the game, you build tabbies and black cleaver, and if you split push a side lane and make a smart usage of your flash ghost, you might actually find a lucky 2v1 and get back in the game. My main point is this: HASHINSHIN complains, but he climbs because of bruisers and fighters, and they're pretty good in the solo queue universe because they can play well from a disadvantage, either by being able to duel people later or just draw a ton of annoying pressure. Range bullies are only dominant if the player piloting them not only plays lane properly, split pushes super smartly, and their team does not feed too hard. Except for maybe Kennen. Fuck that champ. He can still 1v5 games because he's also got an amazing ultimate. I have made countless videos trying to sell the concept to the general League of Legends public that split pushing in the game is a heavily underutilized playstyle that allows for low variance plays that will maximize win rates. If you win your lane and then permanently can duel or 1v2 whoever defends a side lane mid to late game, then essentially the game is in your hands. It's yours to lose. I even coined terms for splitting: fight, float, and flank. HASHINSHIN split pushes a ton, and in all honesty, I don't even think the term float is in his wheelhouse. Despite the fact that HASHINSHIN's frequency of challenging defenders in side lanes is higher than it probably should be, he still reliably climbs. Hell, despite the fact he can lose lanes or get camped a lot because he is known as a streamer, he often still will find good map pressure. Now, this isn't some 4D chess strategy or anything. Most players in League of Legends unfortunately really hone in on, and I'm air quoting here, the values of KDAs. They obsess over how many kills they can get, but most players will get stuck in low ELOs with great KDAs. You can climb faster in this game by simply picking a pushing champ or a scaling champ and just pushing a side lane relentlessly. And this is the HASHINSHIN super top way: relentless side lane pressure. If the defender leaves the side lane for too long, towers will fall, and eventually, if you come back to manage waves, you might actually find yourself losing a 1v1 or getting dove by the very same person who you beat in lane, just due to all the XP and the CS that he's gotten over time. One of my more successful 100 games to Diamond guides was when I made Diamond with Yasuo top in 60 games, even though I had a mostly break-even KDA. Now, the reason? All I did was split push. Every single time. So, keep working side lanes like HASHINSHIN after lane phase. And if you are normally afraid to push in or challenge somebody, let the HASHINSHIN flow through you more often and go for the fight. You can't carry games if you don't challenge people. The term limit testing is very important here. Sometimes the only way to progress is to push a scary boundary when faced with tougher matches. Try to pull the jungler to you with the intent of trying more 2v1s or escaping 2v1s or 3v1s. Don't worry so much about your KDA. Worry more about tower pressure and getting to the nexus. Use the HASHINSHIN ideas, but don't ignore the criticism. Think about whether pushing was the right play, but remember, you cannot win without leveraging pressure on your opponents. Alright, now listen, I know that I already talked about KDAs in this concept, but I really want to hammer it home, okay? HASHINSHIN dies a lot and feeds a lot. That is true. However, there is a community perception that has remained unchanged for years. This idea that the only thing that matters in League is how good your ability is to win lane and or kill champions is. This is the equivalent, okay, to thinking that as a poker player, the most important part of poker is outplaying a better player with a fancy bluff or an amazing fold or whatever. The reality is poker is about making money by being consistently reasonable in your poker playing. HASHINSHIN may not be the Gimgoon of League of Legends macro, but he does focus more on winning the game than the average League of Legends player. Think about it. Every game as a top laner, you know exactly what he is going to do. He is going to try to establish lane priority. He is going to try to win top lane. He is going to try to take the towers, and if he wins top lane and takes those towers, he's going to try to push that lead all the way to the enemy nexus from the side lane. If you're thinking right now, well, NEACE, sometimes it's better to hug the turret and get carried after feeding. Sure, that is true, but what I often see from players is a lack of confidence in what League of Legends is actually about. So like, if I go into a random game, bronze through platinum, right now, and play with relentless just confidence, pure confidence in hitting towers and pushing waves, I instantly see the majority of the opposition freeze up. There is a fear of making a mistake as opposed to carrying a game. This is why you see gold players stuck in gold with 50% win rates with positive KDAs. Sure, you can win lanes, but if you never push up for a tower or make a risky push to try to put a game away with all those kills that you got, all those kills in the world won't make you be able to play with HASHINSHIN. And HASHINSHIN may int sometimes, but my personal opinion is that most top laners that I see, they might win lane, but inevitably they will do this dumb group thing in mid lane or in the mid game, just go right to mid lane at a bad time after lane phase, lose all XP, lead, all pressure because they weren't proactively trying to pressure free objectives after that tier 1 tower. So yeah, don't worry so much about what people think about you. Don't worry so much about taking a risky fight. Don't worry so much about trying to group and save your teammates. Worry more about breaking towers and focusing on those objectives. We talk about it all the time, but people don't do it nearly enough. Personally, I don't agree with the idea that top lane is a weak role, and super top memes aside, I don't think HASHINSHIN is the best player in the world or anything, but I do think that he is a fundamentally better top laner than most League of Legends players that play this game and this role. The man plays a ton and loves the game. Muscle memory alone, he has a huge advantage over, well, just about anyone in the top lane. And as for the lane itself, there really, in my opinion, is a value in being an annoying threat in a side lane, even if people want to flame the guy. The reality is any game where your top laner is able to draw map pressure is always preferred to the perfect CS top laner that never ever seems to leave his turret. Junglers complain he is always inting lane, and yeah, he does a lot, but it's often hilarious to me that many of those players know they are playing with HASHINSHIN, don't dodge him in champ select, and then never adapt their pathing or playstyle to enable him and then complain. Or play around him and then complain. Because again, he's been playing this game for years, and he's not changing. And for the majority of the people in Masters Plus, you know what you're gonna get when you see him. And if you do get blessed with the super top, you know exactly what he's going to do, and you know he's going to challenge his lane, and then the enemy jungler in that lane, and then the enemy mid, and the jungle, and the top laner, and the support, and the ADC all together. So he didn't get to high elo by hugging tower and playing safe, so either carry on the opposite side of the map, or level 2 gank top, because win or lose lane, HASHINSHIN will be there, challenging whoever happens to be blocking that next turret. It is inevitable. It is HASHINSHIN. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching my video. If you want to learn more about top lane and how to carry, I made a full gigantimous guide on playing top lane and getting from any elo that you are stuck in with examples and video demonstrations. Be sure to check it out in the link below. And as always, you know, like, comment, share, subscribe, click notification bells because it does really help me on YouTube. Alright, I love you guys. I'll see you next time. Peace. Crackers.